everybody, my name is Kim Utschig. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about how I got into interpreting, my little bit of a journey through languages and eventually getting into healthcare interpreting. So I think it probably all started with my love for learning languages and specifically the Spanish language. I've been studying for a long time now, started in middle school, went through high school, college, which led me to study abroad and then eventually move abroad after I graduated college. I was kind of on the track for going into teaching. I didn't study teaching. My degree was actually in Spanish, but when I was living abroad, the whole time that I was abroad, I was teaching English. I had private classes. I did some business English with companies. I worked at elementary schools with first graders, second graders, all the way up to sixth grade, I believe was the oldest that I taught. So I had a lot of experience in that, and that's kind of the direction I was moving into. But at the same time, that was the first experience that I had with interpreters. The city that I was living in Spain has a small college, and one of the degrees that they have there is interpreting and translating. And I had a group of friends who were all studying that same degree. So I would hear about their homework, their assignments, their projects, their trials and tribulations with their translation projects, their interpreting simulations, and I honestly thought at that time that interpreting sounded horrible. And I thought to myself, I will never be an interpreter, maybe a translator, that kind of sounds nice. And here we are some odd years later, and I am in the interpreting field myself. But anyway, so I was doing teaching, and you might ask, how did I get into healthcare then? Well, I took a break for about a year, and I came back to the United States, and I was working at a hospital as a patient transporter. And that introduced me to the world of working one-on-one with patients, providers, and I just fell in love. I thought it was the most amazing job that I'd ever had. I'd had several jobs at that point, and it was just number one in my opinion. And I thought I would really love to do something in healthcare in the long term. How do I get into that? So it didn't happen immediately because I did move back abroad. I was in Turkey for a year. I moved back to Madrid for several years, teaching English again. But all the time I was kind of working my way towards getting to be a healthcare interpreter. When I did finally move back to the States, I started looking into programs, classes, different ways that I could become an interpreter. And honestly, it was a little more difficult than I expected. I thought it would be more of a clear-cut path. I wasn't sure which road to follow, so I just started applying for jobs. I didn't have any experience, I didn't have any training. I just thought, let's go for it. I have all this language, these language skills that I can use. Why not? Unfortunately, the first few interviews did not go well. I didn't get those jobs, which ended up being fortunate in the end because that's how I found connecting cultures. And instead of just jumping right into healthcare interpreting, I had a structured training program and lots of support and guidance from all of my colleagues and trainers here, which really helped me to become a confident interpreter and give me the skills that I needed to make the proper decisions while I was out in the field and to handle situations that I otherwise might not have been prepared for. So that's how I got into interpreting, and I really love it. It is a constant learning experience, which now for me has turned into a teaching experience. So I've kind of come back to my beginnings of where I was teaching English, but instead of teaching English now, I am training new interpreters. So I'm fortunate enough to be part of a program where, like I mentioned earlier, I just had so much support and guidance when I started interpreting, and now I'm helping other people to get into healthcare interpreting in that way. And that for me is just such a great opportunity, and I'm so happy to be here. So that's kind of how I got to this point, and I'm really glad to have met anyone who's watching. So thank you for your time, and see you soon.